Why, hi there, I'm Ron Juckett from Retro Sports Network, and I seem to have confused people, and for that, I am sorry. Going to talk today about common errors when installing mods. And the first thing you need to know is that chances are you've done 90% of what you're supposed to do correctly and messed up on a common step or two. And it's not your fault. Installing mods into games like the Action PC series is not always easy. You do have to have some computer knowledge. Games such as Second and 10, I think pretty much for all the Richard Hanna, the Root games, which would include Second and 10, football, time travel, baseball, time travel, tennis, replay baseball, and basketball, and classic soccer. I believe most of the mods for those games self-install. So you download the mod, and it goes right into, should go right into where they're supposed to go. It knows the directories and all that. For the Action PC series, there are no installers. You need to know where they need to go and all that. Plus, once you get into the game, and I'll show you that in a minute, you have to confirm your choices. So there's plenty of chances for things to go wrong, even though you think you might have it right and don't understand, well, how did he do it, and how come I can't do it? And so a couple people responded to the video I did about installing the stadiums, and I can't guess what it is that you didn't do. And so instead of trying to troubleshoot, I figured I would just make a video about it. For younger people, they get most of their games through Steam, and you go to the Steam Workshop, and you get whatever. If you're doing City Skylines, you get your assets, or if you're whatever the game is, it's there. Boom, it installs, and you got it. And there's not a lot of configuring, but the more you have to configure, the better chances are you're going to make a boo-boo. So let me go from there, and we'll just start from the beginning again. Okay, let's go with the one that might throw you off the most. The most recent comment I had said, all I have is the default. I picked things, and they never showed up, and the logos didn't show up. And that happens. I mean, this is, if you're not familiar with how file structures and stuff go, it can be confusing. So let's start with the most basic one. Your DK sports-data folder needs to be in with your program files. It needs to be on my computer. It's where the Windows partition is. It can't be on an external hard drive. I tried that. It won't read it. So it has to, wherever your games are it has to be there. So when you click on that, you pick the sport. And in this case, since you see football in the background, open it up. Okay, and so this gets confusing in here. I've got my fields. I'm not sure where I'm supposed to unzip them to. Stadiums. Okay, well look, here's probably one thing that's going to catch you right there. If you downloaded the thing that I pointed to in the last video, it already has a folder called NFL Fields. So you unzip it all into there, and voila, why aren't the fields there? I unzipped it right into the correct file. No, it won't recognize the fact that they're in a folder. It all has to be in that stadiums folder. Again, this is tricky stuff. This is not introductory stuff. You see, when I go into NFL Fields, it's empty because I took everything out. I hit Control X. No, first thing I did, I'm sorry, taking that back. The first thing I did, imagine that everything you saw was in here, is I hit Control A, which is select all, and then I hit Control X, which is to move it. I went into stadiums and hit Control V, and so everything that was in that folder is now there for the game to see. Okay, that's probably the most common error, is that things are in the wrong folder. So I would double check that. I can't believe Arizona has a snowfield, by the way. That's where I would check, okay? First of all, is what I'm trying to install and look at in the right spot, okay? I go back out. Here's another one, logos. You may be NFL logos for you. It may be just logos, but the folder it needs to go into is team logos. It won't recognize it unless it matches, because I don't believe you can change that. We'll look in a moment. Open up team logos, and there's all sorts of crap in here that I should never have. from old replays because I've been tugging this one around for a long time. Again, you see where they are, but everything is in there, so it's quite confusing if you didn't know what you're looking at. Plus, there's all these dead pictures in here. If you see the mountain one, there's no file size here. It's from whatever it was from years ago. Now, I probably should clean that out, but I'm not going to for the sake of this video. But again, if you're not finding logos, make sure that the logos you got were unzipped into the folder. Okay, under DK Sports Data Football Team logos. All right. If they're there, then we go to step 2. But Ron, I've installed everything into the right folder. And again, I'm not trying to belittle things. So this, for the football game, is confusing. Okay, we start with team information. And the only thing you got to worry about here, all the fields are going to be, the whole parts are going to be right. You just got to make sure that names are there. So it's good for the Action PC series. It's city and nickname are always the same. So Kansas City would be Kansas City. I've changed all that. They've added the coach's name. That's the only. So that's all you have to do here. The stadium names are right. But it's this thing. Scene graphics. And lo and behold, there's a whole lot of things to change here, okay? Let's just pick a team. Let's pick New England. Now, I have the right logo here, okay? But I can assign another logo to there. What in the world was that? Patriots. Okay, so I can give it a new Patriots logo. The 1960 Patriots helmet. And the one I'm using. So let's say I want to go with a new one for there, so I can be Back to the Future. Okay, I've assigned the logo. I go to my I go to my horizontal fields, and that's right. That's just the ugliest 78 Schaefer Stadium, craptastic Patriot Stadium. Okay, let's say I want to use another one. Let's say I want to use that. Schaefer Stadium, grass field, didn't have it. What I'm thinking is that you guys have selected the field, but you got to confirm it. You got to click on, you can see where the mouse is, use field. And voila, in dry weather, that is the Patriots field. I'm going to change it back. Use field. Make sure you hit that. It needs that step of confirmation. Remember, you can't change the directory where these things go. And for some reason, it's more complicated. You split everything up into 2. I'll load up the baseball game in a minute, and you can see a little bit easier there, but not much, okay? So remember, use field confirms that the field you have is there. I'll change it one more time. Use field. I'll go to another team like Cincinnati. Don't worry about what's on the side now. The best way to make sure that you have things confirmed, go back to the one you changed. Well, voila, it's the Patriots field from the early 90s or from the 90s. It's a grass field. They didn't have a grass field there in the 78. Go back, use field, change to another team, change it back. Everything's there, okay? Here's where I think, oh, let me put the right logo back. Assign logo. Here's where I think the other choke point is for some of you folks. If you just hit the X up here, it's not going to save your changes. You can assign everything to your heart's content, and it's not going to save because you didn't confirm it. How do you confirm it? Hit OK, and everything is saved. I'll show you what the baseball game in a moment. Okay, I didn't want to give away the replay I've been taping for the last couple months. So I just pulled up a season I know I haven't addressed, so don't worry about it saying 1945 and all that. baseball game, it's easier. All the mods are in the same place. So let me set up the Red Sox for you. Team name. Logo. Assign logo. I'm not going to go through the uniforms. They're there. But they're all in the same place. Now, if I don't hit OK, let me show you what happens. I go back. Boom. Oh, the logo stayed. Shouldn't have stayed. Wasn't supposed to stay. But as you can see, the team name did not stay. And so I go through and go, oh, goodness gracious, it didn't save. How many logos are still? The Red Sox logo wasn't supposed to stay, but it did. But again, whatever changes you make, confirm it with the OK button. It won't really take shape until you hit the OK button. That tells the game itself that you've got it, that I'm okay with it, and this is what I want to have happen. So that's the basic overview. It's complicated, and just like you have with me and on Facebook and on the YouTube channel, don't be afraid to ask. Hopefully those three things that I showed you might explain some of the mistakes that are being made. It does get complicated. Go to the board. Go to its hold on. The web address is kind of complicated, but if you do a search for Action PC Sports Message Board, you're gonna find it. It's tapatalk.com/groups/Action PC Sports. We'll get you there. And ask questions if you don't get it right. Because of legal issues, the game can't ship with real logos. It can't ship with real players. It can't ship with real team names because Dave doesn't have the Major League Baseball license, which is why OOTP out of the Park Baseball does have all that. And through the Steam Workshop, it installs these things for you and blah, 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 blah. He doesn't have the licenses there. Names you can't regulate and stats you can't regulate. So that's why Barry Bonds is there, depending on the the season, or Y.A. Tittle, or Wilt Chamberlain, or Sidney Crosby, or Tiger Woods, or Jordan Spieth, depending on which sport you can't copyright the names; they can be in there. If you've been doing this gaming thing for a while, you remember when games had to either couldn't use real names, and they scrambled them. And so let's say Trot Nixon was a Nort Tixon because I just swapped it. I remember playing Strategic Baseball Simulator back about 20 years ago and having a utility you had to download which changed the names back because they just reversed the first and first letters of both the names to be the last one first and the first one last. It didn't really work if it was a person that shared a first and last name with the same first letter, such as Kerry Cons, which was supposed to be Barry Bonds anyway. That's now easier, so everything can ship with names. But yes, so make sure that when you're unzipping, make sure that it's going into the correct folder and that's not in a folder in a folder. You can't tell the Action PC line where you're supposed to look. It expects to find the logos in the team logo thing. It expects to find the football fields in the stadiums. Okay, that's one thing. Two, when you're changing around the name or adding graphics to it and your graphics are showing up, you've got to hit OK, not after every team, but when you're done with whatever it is that you're doing. So if you're setting up, typing in the names and putting in the correct helmets for also 28 or 32 NFL teams, you do it at the end. As long as it's open, you're fine. But if you close it, like, oh, I gotta go to the bathroom or whatever, or need to get a drink, or someone wants you to do something, hit OK before you close out that. Just don't close out on the X. And most importantly, for the fields, you got to confirm it with use field. Don't worry about the character count. If it's under 30 characters, you're fine. If you confirm before you leave that, click on another team and then click back on the team that you were working with to see if it took. But you got to hit used field. Use field. That tells the game which field to use. It's a command. It's a pain. It really is. It's probably the most unfriendliest thing about the Action PC line is that, if you came from 2nd and 10, boop, you unloaded and you unzipped and everything was done for you when you chose what you wanted and you should have had it. I think OOTP through Steam pretty much works the same way. Download the mod that you want, drive in the workshop. The next time you open the game, everyone's face is there. Or the stadiums are correct for the year, or whatever it is that you choose to do. It makes life a lot easier. I'm hoping that maybe in the next year or two in Dave's game evolution that whoever makes the mods might do it as a self-installer, so you don't have to worry about making sure that they're in the correct folder before you start. But for legal reasons, they can't sell it with the real logos in place. The NFL would sue. The NBA the leagues could sue because Dave is not paying to use those copyrights. You're using it for your own uses. No one's going to care. That's why the mods are there. But yes, when you change the field, you have to hit use field, and then you hit OK for each one that you change. It will not take it. And for all the other changes, you got to hit OK when you're done. You don't need to do it for each one. It's confusing. If you really need to have a more thorough guide, I'd be happy to do that for you. I know it's frustrating. Don't worry about being frustrated. Go to the board. Make your displeasure known there. Don't be mean about it, obviously, but go through and say, look, I've tried and I've watched this video. I've watched a couple of videos on how to do this. What am I doing wrong? They're going to ask you to be specific. Well, how'd you do that? But if you take the steps to go through, if you're confused, go back, watch the other video again and see if you missed a step. And if it's quite possible I screwed up doing something that I'm not human. I am human. It does happen from time to time. But yeah, make sure that stuff is unzipped to the right folders and not a folder in a folder, or else it won't recognize it. And B, with all the sports, with any changes, you got to confirm it. And I think if you confirm it, also, depending on what operating system you're using, you also got to make sure that you're running the game from an administrator. Gives you the privilege, because if you make the privileges with it, if you make the changes one way and open it up as an administrator, the changes won't be there. It's kind of harder to do in Windows 10. I think Windows 7 was pretty easy, but if you're somehow still using Vista, that got messy in a hurry because it would ignore the changes you made anyway. So hopefully that explains it. If you need things broken down further, comment on the video and I can try to walk you through it. But I don't know what you have for a system. So the common things again, make sure that your data folder for DK Sports is in your main disk partition. It's in your C drive essentially, not in your Windows partition, or not on a stick, or not in an external hard drive. Okay, make sure that what you're trying to use is in the folder that it is supposed to be assigned to, and not a folder inside a folder. If you're trying to change football fields, make sure you hit use field after you find the correct field that you want. Okay, and then to confirm all the changes that you made, you hit OK before you leave that. That should at least get you the logos in there. And remember, you got to assign a logo too. Just because you pops up on your screen, you just can't go to the next team and go, oh, well, why didn't it stick? You got to manually tell the computer, yes, I want to use, for instance, if you're playing a mid-60s Rams season, I want the white helmets for the Rams and not the yellow Ram helmets, okay? It's a pain. It takes about 15-20 minutes even for me to to get a season ready. And I was stupid enough to put in all the uniforms too. Well, the uniforms don't really show on YouTube. They're on the roster screen, but they're not on the game screen. All right. I hope that helps. And like I said, if you Google the Action PC message boards, register there anyway. I mean, they're a very good bunch of people, and politely ask your questions. They will walk you through whatever the specific step is, but be specific with what your problem is. I installed the logos here, and it's not keeping them. Oh, it's not letting me assign them. Okay, be specific as you can when you have a problem. But if you just make sure that you hit use, make sure your things are unzipped to the right place, and that you confirm everything, even though it's not going to say, are you sure you want to do this? Use field for the fields, assign logo for the logos, and okay when you're done, then you should have everything. And if you don't, that's when you go, I understand it's frustrating. And we're an older crowd, and this is not necessarily an intuitive thing to do. Once you figure out how to do it once, it's the same for every year. But hopefully in the future it gets easier. All right, okay. I'm Ron Chuckett. Hit like and subscribe for Retro Sports Network. I'll talk to you the next time.